Welcome to the Tournament Center here at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. I'm Reid Duke, and with me is a very special guest here who also happens to be my brother, Reid Duke. Welcome to the Tournament Center. Reid's here to talk to us today about Team Channel Fireball Pantheon's new breakout deck this weekend, and that is Green-Black Control. Reid, just give us a quick overview of the deck, how it works, and why you chose it here this weekend.
Well, we were excited about playing Control in this format. In particular, the card Languish is great, but we identified in our testing that, unlike normal, blue is not the best control color in Standard right now. So we chose black and green. Seasons Past is the absolute best late game card advantage spell available. And then black has the best removal and Read the Bones, which is the best cheap card draw spell to smooth out your draws and make sure you have enough gas to play the game.
Makes a lot of sense. Why don't we jump into the cards? Take a look here. So these are the two, in my mind, these are the cards that kind of give the deck its unique flavor, right? Seasons Past and Dark Petition.
Yeah, we're looking at the engine of the deck. So the normal play pattern is that you'll cast Dark Petition for Seasons Past, either the same turn via Spell Mastery, or the following turn you'll cast Seasons Past, get back all your removal spell, all your duresses, and of course the Dark Petition to refuel and loop the two cards again.
Right, because of course Seasons Past has this clause at the bottom. It puts itself on the bottom of your library, which makes it then retutorable off the Dark Petition. That's a very, very cool combo. So 4 copies of Dark Petition seems like an unusual card to play 4 of. How did you arrive at that number?
Well, Dark Petition is actually a great card to draw 2 copies of in this deck, because what that means is the first copy can go for your silver bullet card that's great in the matchup, whether it be Languish against the white weenie deck, or Transgress the Mind against a ramp deck, maybe Infinite Obliteration. And then the second copy of Dark Petition will get your Seasons Past to make sure that you can keep going.
And how often are you getting this Spell Mastery bonus off Dark Petition? Is that pretty common?
Very often. It's come up 2 or 3 times for me that I did not have Spell Mastery, but more often than not, you've cast enough removal spells and duresses and Transgress the Minds that you almost always have Spell Mastery.
Sounds awesome. Well, let's take a look at some of the things you can get with that Dark Petition. So we've got Infinite Obliteration, Transgress the Mind, and Duress. These all seem like sort of, I don't know, surgical tools to attack different kind of decks. Walk us through what these do.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, as we get deeper into the deck, you'll notice that a huge portion of the deck is made up of creature removal, but creature removal is only good against creature decks, so we need some tools to fight against the people using unusual strategies like control decks, ramp decks, decks with planeswalkers. Duress is great because it can protect you against counter spells in addition to just being a cheap 1-mana play. Transgress the Mind, perfect against troublesome creatures like Archangel Avacyn, Dragonlord Ojutai, World Breaker. And then our 1 copy of Infinite Obliteration is basically our plan against Eldrazi ramp. For such a slow deck, if you don't have the Infinite Obliteration and you play against a deck with 4 World Breakers and Ulamog, you're almost just sitting there waiting for them to kill you. But the Infinite Obliteration gives you a proactive plan. You cast it once, you name whatever you're worried about, maybe World Breaker, then pretty quickly you can just start recycling it with Seasons Past, getting all of their threats out of their library, and eventually just beating them at your convenience.
I'm curious, did your team expect a lot of the traditional green-red Eldrazi ramp decks or green Eldrazi decks?
We expected it to be a noticeable portion of the field. Certainly not one of the most important decks, but we had access to a single card that was going to dramatically change the matchup, so we figured why not. Infinite Obliteration also can just be good in a normal game if you have a duress, let's say against Bant Collected Company, you see a more expensive creature in their hand like an Avacyn or Bounding Crassus or whatever, and you can just Infinite Obliteration sort of as a follow-up duress effect to get the duress out of their hands.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Has the card been good for you so far this weekend?
It's been okay. I haven't faced any dedicated ramp decks, and it gets sideboarded out a lot, but I still feel more comfortable having it.
Cool, makes sense. Let's check out the next slide. So yeah, just a suite of removal spells here. Probably none anybody's too, surprised to see here, except for maybe Deadweight. Yeah, I guess just walk us through the removal suite.
Tons and tons of removal. This is really probably the greatest appeal of the deck, is just being able to play so many cheap removal spells with so many creature decks out there in Standard. Deadweight in particular, it's just a 1-mana removal spell in a format that really doesn't have a lot of 1-mana removal spells. So it's great in the early game where you can go like Deadweight your Jace, duress you in the same turn to kind of get a little bit of momentum going. It's also very good with Kalidas, Trader of Get, being able to play him and a removal spell in the same turn to get value. But basically, it's just the most important card to keep pace against the fast decks like White Weenie.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And you said it's important that it's 1 mana. That's also for seasons past,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So did you guys give a lot of consideration to varying up the casting costs in your deck to make that work?
We did. We almost went through systematically and took each mana cost on its own to decide, well, what are the best options? How many do we want in our main deck? What about our sideboard plans against varying decks? And the 1 deadweight's great.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's take a look at what we have next. So, yeah, one of your favorite cards here, Reid the Bones.
Reid the Bones is my absolute favorite card. This is the card you want to draw the most in this deck because it's a cheap card advantage in a deck that really needs to hit its land drops and have a lot of gas. It smooths your draws, helps you dig towards your engine cards or your answer cards, depending on the situation. Helps you set up turn 4 Languish. And as I mentioned at the start, Languish, just a huge appeal of the color black and the control strategies in general, because it's so good against the White Weenie decks, very good against Bant Collected Company, very good against decks with Thought-Knot Seer. Basically, any deck playing creatures, Languish is excellent against.
Yeah, I feel like coming to the tournament, a lot of people wanted to play with Languish, but there wasn't really a good home for it. Is that how you kind of approach building this deck, where you're like, I want to play a Languish deck, let's figure out how to do that? Or was it more like, you saw seasons past, or how did you get into the archetype?
There's a bit of tension because the reason Languish is so good is that the creatures are so good in Standard. So it's tempting to want to play a green-black deck like this and play Sylvan Advocates and Tireless Trackers and everything like that, which we did work on many decks like that in testing also, but this one is just very smooth, no creature or very few creatures, so that you can make best possible use of Languish and keep all of your opponent's creature removal basically ineffective against you. And yeah, I mean, Languish is a single card that can buy you a ton of time and just clean up the board in the early game, and then you have great card advantage in the late game. So it's almost a perfect, easy formula.
So talk to me real quick about Kalitas, Trader of Get. This is a card we've seen on camera a lot this weekend. It's been doing a ton of work. What's the deal with this guy?
The original version of Seasons Past that we built had 0 creatures in the main deck. It was just all about the Seasons Past engine. But Kalitas ended up being very important in some of the problematic matchups, namely Bant Collected Company. It's just the best way to dominate the board against a deck with creatures. And as we saw, this deck has something like 15 removal spells, so you're always generating zombies every time you get to untap with him. It also provides very valuable lifelink, life gain in a slow deck where you're paying life with Reid the Bones. It's just perfect. It also helps you win matches in time, which can be a problem.
Seems like it's really well positioned against the black-green sacrifice deck we saw this weekend.
Yeah, it's the most important card against a deck like that.
So yeah, let's zip on over to the next slide. Just rounding things out here, we've got Nissa's Renewal and Nissa herself, some great ways to kind of smooth out your mana and
Nissa's
get some more
Renewal
lands.
is really fun in this deck.
Yeah.
It's not an integral part of your game plan, but it's just great when you can get it going. It's first of all the 1/6 mana spell, which, as you mentioned, it's important to vary your mana costs. It's the most direct way to gain life, which is important for a deck like this for pulling out of range against a deck with flash creatures or burn spells or whatever it might be. And it just makes the engine so much more effective. You cast Nissa's Renewal, next turn you're untapping with 10, 11, 12 mana, casting multiple spells in the same turn. This card, if you get it going, you can pretty quickly be casting Seasons Past and all of the cards you're getting back almost all on the same turn.
Yeah, we've seen some games with your teammate Jon Finkel on camera where he has like 18 lands on the battlefield. So pretty awesome. So yeah, let's check out the next slide here, rounding things out with the mana base. Any big comments here? It was pretty straightforward.
No, just tons of lands, 26, very high land count, tons of basic lands to go with Nissa and Nissa's Renewal. Smooth 2-color mana base to take as little damage as possible from our lands. Lots of black mana for Grasp of Darkness. And Evolving Wilds is really great with Seasons Past because it counts as a 0. You can return it to your hand. And a lot of times you cast Seasons Past, return the Evolving Wilds, play it again, reshuffle the Seasons Past into your library.
Sounds great. Well, there you have it, folks. This deck is awesome. We've seen it a bunch on camera this weekend. Your teammate Jon Finkel is all but locked up the top 8 with it.
Yeah, we'll get to watch him
looking
tomorrow.
Forward to seeing him tomorrow. This is a deck that I can't wait to take to FNM or try out on Magic Online, and I hope you guys are interested in it too. So thanks for joining us here. Reid Duke, I'm Ian Duke, signing off from the Tournament Center.